Welcome back. So I'll continue from same point where I left in the earlier video. So we have actually created one simple flow to understand about batch. Let us simulate failures now. See here I have modified step 1, just a small modification. In step 1 what I have done is I have a choice router where in the first when condition, if the payload is 10 or 20 or 30, I'm just going to raise an error just for demonstration. The error name is app colon my error just for testing. So 3 records processing will fail when the payload is 10 or 20 or 30. This is going to raise an error. And in second step, you can see I have configured second step already to accept only when payload is divided by 2 and no failure. That means the records with payload 10, 20, 30 should not go to second step. And in third step, I want to accept all. So third step will be able to accept when the payload is 10 or 20 or 30. So like that, we can configure some steps to ignore processing of the records based on failures. And also you understood accept expressions, right? And we can also do one thing. We can set variables also in one of the steps. This will create a variable in the record. Okay, just for a demonstration I'm writing here. If you set a variable in any one of the step, let's say shell process, I can actually make it as true or false. So I could remove this raise error. So I can set a variable. This variable is a record level variable. If you set a variable before batch job, that is a variable at the mule event level. If you remember the structure of mule event, a mule event also has variable, right? So if I actually configure a variable before batch job, it is a variable at mule event level. But if I configure a variable in any one of the steps, it is considered to be a record level variable. That variable will be visible only for that record. So if you want to set any variables on a record, you can just configure a variable in any one of the steps. Okay, so that's the concept. Now let me just run this. I think it's already running. Yeah. So let me give a request. I'll just give a request to /test. And here you can see the processing of the records. Yeah, I can see that error is logged, and you can see in step 1 I can see some messages. Still after the error also step 1 continued. That means processing of the records continues even though there is one error. Okay, and you can see in step 2 you can see the record with number 10 didn't come. You can see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 didn't come. 20 didn't come. 18 you saw, 20 didn't come. 30 didn't come. So like that, the records are not accepted in step 2 for failures. But for step 3, you should be able to see record with number 10. See, step 3 has got 10. Step 3 has got 20. Right. Normally what we do is to handle errors. For last step, you can configure the accept policy as only failures. So only failure records will come to last step. And here you can do whatever you want. Maybe you can write to a database, or you can push the failed record to a JMS queue or anything, whatever you want. So in this case, step 3 will be executed only in case of failures. Okay, that's about how to create a variable, a record level variable, and how to handle errors. Okay, I'll just show you one more use case which you'll be implementing in the exercise. So what I want to do is I want to poll for new files. So I want to poll for a file which contains CSV record. So I have a file, this sales.csv, which contains a lot of sales information. It contains a lot of fields like name, city, state, and all this. What I want to do is I want to poll file system for these files and then store that in a database table named sales. Right now, for just demonstration, I have a sales table with only name and city, and this table is empty. I want to read from the sales.csv, and I want to write into database. Let us see. So what I've done is I have configured this on your upload file, which will poll for the file in input directory. Once it gets, it's transforming and it's converting it to a Java list, right? Then here I am setting a variable, set variable transformer, where I am setting the payload, size of payload as a variable. This is a variable which is set before batch job. That means what is the scope of this variable? It is available at the Mule event level, right? Then if I set a variable in any one of the steps, it will be a variable in record level. Now the payload after this transform will be a list. I'm setting a variable, and payload to batch job will be a list. Now what I want to do is in step 1, I want to extract the value of name and city and store in a variable. See here, I have written a transform message where this is the expression for variable name. I'm extracting payload.name and setting it as a variable. It's a record level variable, and I'm setting another variable city by extracting it from payload.city. Then in step 1, what I want to do is I want to fire a select query to check if this record is already existing. Now see here the query, select star from cells where name is equals to my name and city, and here is the value for input variables, my city and my name. I am extracting from vars. Vars means here in this case the record variable which I have set in transform message. So the output of this select component will be a list of size 0 if the record is not existing, or if the record is existing, the size will not be 0, else size will be 0, right? So here I am setting a variable again under advanced. I am setting a variable is present. So if the size of payload, if the query results in more than one row, that means record is present, right? I'm setting this variable, and I don't want second step to be executed if the variable is present. If the variable is not present in the database, then only I want to do the insert. So here in step 2, I have configured accept expression, which will accept only if the record is not present. I'm using this record variable, and here I'm just logging. I don't want each record to be executed individually, so that's why I have configured a batch aggregator here, and the aggregator size is 50. It will aggregate up to 50 records, and then once records are aggregated, then I am inserting into database by using the bulk insert. So I have only 2 steps, and in on complete I'm just printing what are the number of processed records. So this is a simple example to read from a file and write to database, and here you are seeing batch aggregator how I am using. So this you'll be doing in the exercise. Now you have an exercise. Okay, so what you can do right now is I can open my GitHub, go to day 3 folder. There's a document called as batch. Open this and follow the step-by-step instructions and complete this exercise. See you in next lecture.